Hey folks, hope you're all doing well and welcome to episode 11 of Recommend an Album to Review. So what we do with this series is every week I'll pick an album from your recommendations in the comments and I will review that record and then let you know what I think about the record. The criteria for the records is, a single album, nothing ridiculously long, genres, anything basically except for maybe some crazy, jazz fusiony stuff, just something that, I can digest in a week's time and do a review on. So for this week, this particular one, and again, if I don't get to your suggestion that particular week, if you put it in again and again, like this one I'm going to do this week it's been put in there a couple of times. So, I picked it for this week. So the album that I'm going to review this week is by a band that I'd never heard of before called King Buffalo. And the name of the record is The Burden of Restlessness. Okay. So I haven't done a lot of research on the band. I know it's a three-piece band: guitar, bass, and vocals, drums, of course. I know they're from Rochester, and I didn't really look much more into the band than that. So with this record, sort of generally, it's very vibey. It's kind of hypnotic at times, because these guys, what they do in a lot of their songs is they start them off with like a relatively clean guitar and kind of basically like a riff, and then the drums and bass come in and they kind of set a mood or a groove. And it's usually, I think pretty much this whole album is all mid-tempo, so it's like mid-tempo kind of hypnotic, groove going on. And then the singer doesn't really ever sing full voice. It's kind of like he kind of sings like this, kind of like a hushed tone to his voice. Singing melody and stuff, but he's just not like, singing full voice at the top of his lungs, so to speak. So the kind of that's what I mean by vibey. It's kind of, they all start off like that. So, and then with most of the songs, there's a lot of dynamics. It usually starts off like I mentioned, and then it gets real heavy. The big guitars come in. The guitars get all distorted. Ample amounts of fuzz used on the guitars on this record. Not a lot of real guitar solos. It's sort of like they kind of builds into like a crescendo, and then the song kind of ends. There's not a lot of B sections. A lot of times with a lot of the tunes on here, whatever that riff was that they started with clean guitar, it gets this, they're playing the same riff, but with a lot more gain or fuzz going on and heavier drums, percussion, and so on and so forth. So, let's go through the songs one by one. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the first track called "Burning." All right, so the lead-off track, "Burning." It starts off with this really cool, he's just a really cool groove, and it kind of builds, and it's just, the guitar's just playing these single notes, and the guitar almost sounds kind of keyboardy a little bit at the beginning, and then the hushed kind of vocals come in, and then this song builds into this nice crescendo, and there's the guitars get a lot heavier. There's some really cool riffs towards the end, no guitar solo, but just a lot of change up with the riffs at the end, and it kind of builds into like a crescendo. But the thing is, the instruments get very dynamic, but the vocal is always sort of that hushed tone. What would be nice is if, when the band got louder and that the voice would he would go into full voice, but that doesn't happen. The voice always kind of stays the same. But a pretty good track. So a nice opener for the record, and that's the first track, "Burning." I should mention there's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 7 tracks on here, and they're relatively long. Well, "Burning" is a little over 6 minutes. The next one, "Habitation," is only 4 minutes and 31 seconds. So, all right, the second track, Habitation. So this one starts off already with a little fuzzy guitar. I gotta say the drums on this record are fantastic, and the bass lines are great. It's a really tight, very groove ridden. Is that a bad thing? Very groove laden band. Is that the right term? I don't know. There's a lot of groove, and the guitars. Again, this one in the middle part, it kind of builds up a little bit, gets a little heavier. There's some dynamics, some little light and shade going on. There's some really cool riffs to end the song, and actually, that's so far. That's probably well. Actually, there's another song on here that's my favorite, but that's in my top three. That track, Habitation. All right, so let's look at the next track. So the next track is Locusts. All right, with Locusts, there's a little bit of delay effect on the guitar that works really, really well. There's some keyboards in there, and there is kind of a solo at the end. Again, it's that whole sort of hypnotic, vibey thing. This track is 6 minutes and 28 seconds. So it's a lot about establishing sort of that vibe, that groove, and then it kind of builds up at the end. A lot of the songs on this record, they're all they're the same kind of recipe. You know, they start off, kind of mellow, and then they build, and then there's a little bit of sort of crescendo, a little light and shade at the end, and then the song is over. So I'm not saying that the songs are all sound alike, but the format for the songs is pretty much uniform throughout this. And that's Locust. So the next track is Silverfish. All right, this one is definitely the hookiest track on here. It's got this it's a guitar played thing, but it almost sounds like a keyboardy. It's very sparse. That's the other thing I should mention too. The production on this, everything it's very minimalistic. There's not a lot of layers of guitars. I mean, until the song builds at the end, but at the beginning, it's usually very sparse. It's just the guitar, like playing a clean line with the bass and the drums supporting it, and then the vocals. But this one has a very hooky part to it that, again, like the rest of them, that kind of builds. The singer does almost go full voice at the end on this. Just a real catchy song. If hits still exist, this would probably be the hit. I think there's a video for this one, so that was probably their single off the record, I guess. But a real catchy tune, man. I really dig this song, Silverfish, and it's one of the shorter ones at 3 minutes and 44 seconds. All right, let's move on. All right, Grifter. Speaking of her sort of hypnotic vibey, this one's got a lick that just kind of is puts you in that mood. I mean, this is one of those records that you want to kind of sit back and just relax. And the lyrics, I must say, though, not that I'm a lyric guy, but they're pretty depressing. But the music is cool. The music is very cool. And this is, again, another one. It's kind of got that hypnotic vibe that goes for a while, and then it gets heavier at the end. There's a really, really sort of Godzilla, monster heavy guitar riff at the end. That I really like. Like it's one of those, kind of really brutal riffs that closes out the song, which is really cool. And this one is at 5 minutes and 18 seconds. All right, next one, the Knox. Yeah, what can I say about the Knox? I mean, ditto. They all have that same structure. They all start off very minimalistic. It gets heavier. And in a way, because that the songs are sort of structured so similarly, honestly, like it does start to, the songs become very predictable. I know where this one's going to go. It's going to, you know what I mean? So in that regard, that's one of the criticisms, but I'll talk about the album as a whole at the end, but that's one of the criticisms I have of the record. And the last track is called Loam. All right, so Loam, I mean, ditto. It's some real good guitar parts. When the heavy guitar comes in, he's always playing something really, really cool. Again, very minimalistic, but just heavy. So in a nutshell, what do I think about this record? I mean, it's not a bad album. It's pretty good. I do like the riffs, the tracks. They're really, they're really catchy. I love the drums on this record. The recording as well. Everything is very clean. It's not cluttered at all. Um, the hushed vocals, I would like a little more variety there. It would be cool if the guy went full voice, but he never does. I guess that's maybe that's intentional. That's to suit the sort of vibey, hypnotic thing that they're trying to create. I don't know. It could be an artistic thing. The heavy guitars sound cool. The riffs are really cool. Um, you know, it's a pretty good record. I know, it's from another thing that I saw that people are calling this brilliant. Yeah, I mean it's different. It's definitely different, but it's different. But then all the songs are the same in regard to their structure. They don't all sound the same. They're not playing the same riff every time. It's very inventive in that regard. But I mean, as far as the song structure, it's kind of similar from song to song. I would like a little more. Here, my criticisms. I would like a little more variety in the song structure. I would have liked maybe a little more. In the vocal, a little change up on the vocal. I would have liked maybe some different tempos. I think these are all like at the same tempo. If there's one that's a little bit quicker, I can't remember which one it is. It might be Habitation, might be just a touch quicker, but they're all kind of mid tempo. They're all designed the same. I mean, even though they're good, there's a lot of similarity from track to track in structure, right? Not riffs, just structure. So, if I was to rate this out of 5, I'd give it maybe a 3.5. For people that love this kind of music, I don't know what you would classify this as, doom or psych rock or whatever, but it's kind of has that vibe to it as well. So, but I want to thank the whoever recommended this to me. Appreciate it. If you would like me to review another record, please throw it in the comments. I do this so far. I've been averaging every Thursday, which is very cool. So put a record there in the comments, and I'll check it out. And we'll see you next week. Have a great rest of your week and a great rest of your weekend. Cheers.